Hello and welcome back to Learn the Bible in a Year for January 2nd, 2026. And today we read through Genesis chapter 43 and 44, Matthew chapter 15, verses 10 through 39, and also Psalms chapter 13. We're not going to waste any time today. We're going to jump right into the recap. So, Genesis 43, the famine is still severe. When Jacob's family finishes eating the grain from Egypt, Jacob tells his sons to go back and buy more food. Judah reminds him that the man was very clear, speaking of Joseph, that you won't see my face unless your brother is with you. If you'll send Benjamin, we'll go. If not, we won't, because the man said we can't see him without Benjamin. Jacob asks why they told the man they had another brother. They explain that they were questioned closely about their family. Things like, is your father still living? Do you have another brother? And they simply answered his questions. After all, how were they supposed to know that he'd say, you need to bring your brother next time you come? It's kind of an odd request. Judah then makes a personal guarantee. Send the boy with me. I'll bear the blame before you all my life if I don't bring him back. If we hadn't delayed, we could have gone and returned twice already. Jacob finally agrees. Take some of the best products of the land as gifts: balm, honey, spices, myrrh, and pistachio nuts. These were luxury items in the ancient world, valuable trade goods. Take double the amount of silver plus the silver that was returned in your sacks. Perhaps it was a mistake, and take Benjamin. When they arrive in Egypt and Joseph sees Benjamin with them, he tells his steward to take the men into his house and prepare a meal. The brothers are frightened when they are taken to Joseph's house. They think that they are being brought in because of the silver returned in their sacks to attack us, overpower us, and seize us as slaves. They approach the steward and explain about the silver. We didn't know who put it in our sacks. The steward says, don't be afraid. Your God and the God of your father has given you treasure in your sacks. I receive your silver. Then he brings Simeon out to them. Remember, Simeon has been in prison this whole time, and Jacob took his sweet time sending his boys back. Not super nice. The steward takes them inside and gives them water to wash their feet and provides fodder for their donkeys. Foot washing was actually a standard hospitality practice in a dusty climate where the people wore sandals. They prepared their gifts for Joseph's arrival at noon because they heard that they will eat there. When Joseph comes home, they present their gifts to him and bow down before him, fulfilling his dream from decades ago. He asks about their welfare and their aged father. Is he still living? They say, your servant, our father, is still alive and well, and they bow down again. Joseph looks at Benjamin, his only full brother. He's so moved that he has to leave the room in order to weep. He washes his face and composes himself and then returns. He has them seated in order of their ages from firstborn to youngest. The brothers look at each other in astonishment. How does he know their birth order? This is starting to get really weird. The food is served, and Benjamin gets 5 times as much as anyone else. In that culture, giving someone a larger portion was a sign of special favor. All right, jumping into Genesis chapter 44, Joseph tells his steward to fill the men's sacks with as much food as they can carry and put each man's silver back in his sack, and put my silver cup in the youngest one's sack along with the silver for his grain. And the steward does so. At dawn, the brothers are sent away with their donkeys. Soon after they leave, Joseph tells his steward to pursue them. When you catch up, say, why have you repaid good with evil? Isn't this the cup my master drinks from and uses for divination? This is wicked. Divination is a common practice in ancient Egypt, reading signs in the liquid poured into a cup. Joseph probably doesn't actually practice this, but he's maintaining his Egyptian persona. The brothers are caught and protest. Why does my lord say such things? We even brought back the silver we found in our sacks. Why would we steal silver or gold from your master's house? If any of our servants is found with it, he will die, and the rest will become slaves. The steward searches from oldest to youngest, and the cup is found in Benjamin's sack. They tear their clothes in grief, a sign of extreme distress, and load their donkeys and return to the city. When they come before Joseph, Judah speaks. What can we say? How can we prove our innocence? God has uncovered your servant's guilt. Now we're your slaves, both we and the one who was found with the cup. Joseph says, far be it from me to do such a thing. Only the man who was found with the cup will become my slave. The rest of you go back to your father in peace. He's separating Benjamin from them, testing to see if they will abandon him like they abandoned Joseph years before. Kind of a sneaky move, if you ask me. And Judah makes a passionate plea. When we went back, our father said, go back and buy more food. We told him that we can't unless our youngest brother goes. Our father explained to us that his wife bore him two sons. One is gone. Surely he's been torn to pieces. If you take this one and harm comes to him, I will die of grief. Now, if I go back without the boy, my father's life is bound up in the boy's life. He will die when he sees the boy isn't there. Please let me remain here as your slave instead of the boy. Let him return with his brothers. How can I go back if the boy isn't with me? I couldn't bear to see the misery that would come to my father. Judah is offering himself as a substitute for Benjamin, exactly what he wouldn't do for Joseph all those years ago. All right, jumping into Matthew chapter 15, and we read verses 10 through 39. Jesus calls the crowd and says, listen and understand. That's a good way to start a speech. What goes into someone's mouth doesn't defile them, but what comes out of their mouth, that is what defiles them. The disciples say the Pharisees were offended. Jesus says, every plant not planted by my heavenly Father will be pulled up. Leave them. They are blind guides. Some pretty harsh words for the Pharisees there. But Jesus says harsh words to the Pharisees all the time, so I guess this is just one of those times. Peter asks Jesus to explain the parable. Jesus says, are you still so dull, poor Peter? Don't you see that whatever enters the mouth goes into the stomach and then out of the body? But things that come out of the mouth come from the heart, and these defile you. Out of your heart come evil thoughts, murder, adultery, sexual immorality, theft, false testimony, slander. These are what defiles a person, not eating with unwashed hands. Jesus withdraws to a region of Tyre and Sidon, Gentile territory. A Canaanite woman comes crying out, Lord, Son of David, have mercy. My daughter is demon-possessed and suffering. Jesus doesn't answer. His disciples urge him to send her away. She keeps crying after us. Jesus said, I was sent only to the lost sheep of Israel. The woman kneels before him. Lord, help me. Jesus said, it is not right to throw the children's bread to the dogs. But the woman responds with faith. Yes, Lord, but even the dogs eat the crumbs that fall from their master's table. Jesus says, woman, you have great faith. Your request is granted. Her daughter is healed instantly. Now, this is a very odd interaction between this Gentile woman and Jesus. For a full breakdown of what actually happens here and how this is actually a huge gesture of mercy from Jesus, you'll have to check out my episode where I do a deep dive on Matthew chapter 15. But let's move on. Jesus goes to the Sea of Galilee, goes up on a mountainside, and sits down. Great crowds come bringing the lame, the blind, the crippled, mute, and many others. They lay them at his feet, and he heals them. The people are amazed and praise the God of Israel. Jesus calls his disciples. I have compassion for these people. They've been with me 3 days and have nothing to eat. I don't want to send them away hungry. They may collapse on the way. The disciples ask where we can get enough bread in this remote place to feed such a crowd. Jesus asks, how many loaves do you have? They say 7 plus a few small fish. He tells the crowd to sit down, takes the 7 loaves and fish, gives thanks, breaks them, and gives them to the disciples to distribute to the people. They all eat and are satisfied. They gather 7 basketfuls of broken pieces. 4,000 men ate, besides women and children. After dismissing the crowd, Jesus gets into a boat and goes to the vicinity of the Magadan. All right, great stuff from Jesus there. Now let's finish up in Psalms chapter 13. David cries out, how long, Lord, will you forget me forever? How long will you hide your face from me? How long must I wrestle with my thoughts day after day and have sorrow in my heart? How long will my enemies triumph over me? Look on me and answer, Lord my God. Give light to my eyes, or I will sleep in death. My enemy will say, I've overcome him, and my foes will rejoice when I fail. But I trust in your unfailing love. My heart rejoices in your salvation. I will sing the Lord's praise, for he has been good to me. It's really a short Psalms that moves from anguish to trust. 4 times David asks, how long? He's in pain and doesn't understand the delay, but he ends with confidence in God's goodness despite his circumstances. Alrighty, now before we jump into today's question, just a quick and wonderful word from our sponsor, Covenant Security Equipment. Covenant Security Equipment is a Christian owned company that partners with building contractors who build with safety in mind. They sell bullet resistant windows, secure transaction systems, drive through installations, and much, much more. Covenant Security Equipment delivers commercial grade security solutions with very fast turnaround times. If that is appealing to you, if you are a builder, go to covenantsecurityequipment.com, or you can go and check out the website that is in the show notes. All right, moving into our questions for today. If you don't have a workbook yet, I put a lot of time into making this workbook for you. You can get a free digital copy that is in the show notes. You can check that out. You can also get the paperback version, which is the kind that I like because I can put my answers, jot them down directly in the workbook. You can find the link to that in the show notes as well. All right, question number 1 for today. From what we read in Genesis 43 and 44, Judah offers himself as a slave in place of Benjamin. And here's the question: how has someone's sacrifice for you changed your life? And who might need you to sacrifice for them? A double ended question there. That's nice. Question number 2, from what we read in Matthew 15, Jesus healed the Canaanite woman's daughter after she persisted despite his initial silence. Here's the question: when has your faith been tested by God's silence or delayed answer? Hmm. And from what we read in Psalms chapter 13, David asks, how long, Lord? 4 times, showing his raw impatience with God's timing. So here's a question: what situation are you growing impatient with? And how can you trust God's timing like David ultimately did? Great question. And question number 4, which is the same question we have every single day: what's our main takeaway from today's reading? My main takeaway was from how David called on the Lord. David had raw emotions in Psalms 13. He wasn't hiding the way that he was feeling, he was telling God exactly the way that he felt. And I encourage us to do the same thing. When we're praying to God, tell him how we actually feel. We can't hide it from him anyway, but let's tell him how we actually feel, but always circle back to the fact that God is ultimately in charge and we put our faith, hope, and trust in him, just like David did. All right, well, that's the end of today's episode, and I will see you all again here tomorrow.